week's episode, Aubrey and I are going to talk about the Kiati Mundi box because, well, it just got dropped on, like, as far as all the information. So Aubrey's going to tell you all about how much he loves Padawans. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
You mean younglings. I refuse to call them Padawans, Todd. No, I
Fair
refuse.
enough. Fair enough. How we doing, Aubrey? I know that you and air quality in Arizona never get along, so I know you're sounding a little rough this morning.
Yeah, I promise, dear listeners, I'm not dying. It's just the air quality. You know what bugs me about this, Todd? It's usually air quality is like smog from cars because everybody's driving around because it's the holidays and they have time off. But I'm not allergic. Like, that's one of the few things I'm not allergic to. And yet it contributes to, I don't know, creating some sort of miasma that hits me anyway. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. How are you, Todd? I'm just here. I survived my first Saturday at my job, and no one had a hammer. No one wanted to argue with me about whether how free the books were. My new job's pretty good so far.
Nice.
So that's
Just
good.
give it
That's
time. Just
good.
give it time. You work for the government, so it's going to turn eventually. No,
How are
I'm
you,
pretty
Todd?
good. I'm pretty good. The government's not shutting down, which means I'm
Oh
not going to have to
yeah.
work without a paycheck. So that's always fun.
Yay.
Yeah, because I am an essential employee for some reason when it comes down to it, which means that I have to, even when the government shuts down, I have to work. And because I have to work, but the government shut down, I don't see a paycheck until the shutdown ends. So I like it when we don't have shutdowns because no matter what, I'm going to have to be at work. So yeah,
Well, right. Wasn't there one time where like it went on for a month, right? I'm trying
no,
to think. Like,
under not the current president, but under the president before that, it went on for over 60 days. Uh, uh,
yeah.
yeah, so that was a bad one. That was when like I was
Ooh.
waiting for planes to start falling out of the sky because there like every air traffic controller wasn't getting paid at that point in time for 2 months. I'm like, man, you're really playing with fate there because I mean, air traffic controllers already have a rough job as it is, and now you're not paying them for 2 months. Are we sure we want to do this?
That that's interesting because that's what I have always heard. Like, man, there are some jobs where I'm like, I don't know if there's any amount of money that you could pay me for that stress. But I was never being a doctor was never in the cards, man. I was gonna chop off the wrong limb. I was gonna put the wrong part in the wrong spot.
I would not trust you to sit there and do any type of operations, Aubrey. I'm just saying. I've seen you try to put together models.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you're not wrong. How many times have I messed up? So we have detailed instructions, and I still manage to mess up on a regular basis. Yes,
I mean, and your
yes.
Obi-Wan has forks for fingers instead of actual fingers, so there's that too. You like you.
Sporky one, yeah, it's great. Hey, the fiance did a great job fixing his hands. You can't even tell. You can't even tell.
No, you don't just don't look at his hand, and you won't tell at all.
Shh, shh, shh. It's painted over. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
exactly.
He
Oh,
just
so
says little clubby finger.
yeah, fantastic. All right, well, I'm assuming since you're still kind of like in the December mix, I didn't see you at our event that we had this just yesterday, actually. So I'm assuming you probably haven't gotten much in other than playing around with your wonderful 3D printer that you love so much.
We're still down to two printers. Remember, everyone, there are five in my house, so we're down to two. Although one is down just because I refuse to spend the money on the part that it needs to replace. So really there's effectively four, but one is jammed, and I think that's going to be an easy fix. I've never unclogged a jam on that machine, so I need to actually look up the steps, and then the other one, I have the parts. They're right there. I can see the parts. I just need to try and assemble it. But it's
Well, and I'm going to say this right now, Aubrey. That way, everybody who listens to the podcast knows I'm saying this. We're good on terrain for LVO at this point in time. You can downgrade on the number of printers you have at any time. You don't have
mm,
to hold on to five.
no. What about LVO 2026?
That's fine. We have a year to
Mm-hmm.
get there, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that there's other people that will help us out with printing at this point in time. We have things in place to where you don't have to sit there and have an entire room dedicated to printers unless you want to.
Hey, all I'm
It's an
saying
addiction. I
is
get it. It's an
if
addiction.
you want to if you want to guarantee that we can run as big of an event as you want, then the printer farm will be here for at least a little while longer. Little while
Yeah,
longer.
I get it. I think at this point, I mean, like in all reality, I mean, we got 64 for LVO this past year. I don't know if they're going to expand more than like another 36 next year, but we'll see. I mean, it did sell out. The thing that I'm concerned about more than anything is they didn't like they're not getting a lot of um participation at their other Shatterpoint events throughout the country. LVO just happened to blow up more than anything else, but we'll see. I mean, it's really kind of up to Frontline Gaming what they want to do. I think Adepticon's also going to be kind of a good barometer of like where participation is going to be based off of how many people sign up and everything for that. But and I
Right.
don't know. I don't. Oh, good.
We'll know in January
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. But Todd, how often do these things break? I like to plan in advance and be ready in advance. It's okay. If we end up not needing those train tables, guess what? Guess what, dear listeners? I might get a side gig selling a printed terrain to locals because can't put that stuff on the internet. But it's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah. So other than fighting with your printers, which you usually do on a pretty consistent basis at this point in time, anything else exciting going on with gaming and stuff? Any other hobbying stuff?
No, unfortunately not. I still haven't gotten any assembling or other things done. I mean, it's just the gauntlet of this month. Todd,
Mhm.
let's talk about you. Let's talk about your event.
All right.
I've gotten through the two birthdays. The two birthdays have now passed, and now the big daddy birthday of them all is looming over the horizon very very
It's
quickly.
only a couple days away at this point in time. By the time this
Almost there.
episode drops, it'll probably be Christmas Eve. So yeah, no, I mean we're good, man. We're whoa, but so as far as the event, um, I was excited right off the bat because I didn't have to run the event. I was not. That was
You
very exciting.
played in an event, Todd?
That I didn't run. Yes, like so that was exciting. That I actually got to play in something and didn't wasn't actually having to do any of the planning coordinating. So Liam over at Imperial Outpost is going to be running like a monthly event over there, like which is really cool. He made a bunch of or his mom actually made a bunch of dice bags with all sorts of different logos on it. I ended up
Yay.
getting the Clone Force 99 bag because
That's awesome.
right.
Todd is holding it up for those of you who are just listening,
Yeah,
not
so if
on
you're watching
YouTube
on
or
YouTube, you
anything.
get to see it. But yeah, no, so I
That's
got that.
cool.
He had all sorts of different ones. There was gosh, let's see. There was the Empire logo, the Republic logo, the New Republic logo, uh, the Phoenix Force. There's, I mean, you name it.
Yay.
Like if there was a logo out there, just about yeah. The Mandalorian with like all the
Right.
logos, the two different logos associated with Mandalorians that we're like most commonly associated with Mandalorians, I guess I should say. Um, so basically, yeah, but there was just a ton of bags that he made. He also had a bunch for Shatterpoint with all the different affiliations, or I should say for MCP with all the different affiliations. So it was really cool that like he's going to sit there and have some really cool prize support for those who have a chance to get out there. He's like, I'm going to have an event in January. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's like LVO
Mm.
coming up. Nope, I'm good. But yeah, no, it was nice. We had a total of 8 players. Um, like a couple people dropped, and then we just had a couple people that weren't even signed up that showed up. So it's like when I signed up, I think we were at 4 players, and then all of a sudden, like people just randomly started showing up. Like, oh, okay, cool. So we had 8 players. Uh, at the end of the day, I ended up going at 2-1. So my first match was against Sam. She was playing all Empire. Let me see. I'm gonna have to pull up Longshanks to remember. I believe she was because she didn't play Thrawn against me. Well, I'll start with my list. I was playing my who was I playing? I was playing Hunter and Lord Maul, which is like one of my favorite things to play basically at this point in time. So I played that, which is the standard, at least for me, uh, Hunter with Wrecker, Techo, and then Maul with Crosshair. And I did bounty hunters. I was waffling back and forth between bounty hunters or going with Fifth Brother. At the end of the day, I don't know if one was like like for me. I love bounty hunters so much. I don't think it really would have mattered. Um, I ended up winning our match 2-0. It was a rough it was a rough go for her. Like I was just able to get out in points really fast, uh, and just kind of secure points really quickly, a lot quicker than I think I was even expecting, to be honest. I mean, it just was a fast game. Maul did what Maul does, and
Yeah.
just kind of goes up. And the thing I really like about the Maul Hunter build that I made is that there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with Wrecker, like with all of his points, with his ha 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 yeah, with his I wasn't sneaking, uh, and just his bulldoze does all sorts of great stuff. So there's all sorts of just amazing things that you can do with that. And I think that's kind of the biggest issue is that or with him is like he really just turns on all of those different things that you can do with Wrecker because you have the force, because that force economy is just so balanced. So that was kind of nuts. Oh, she played, that's what it was, she played Veers and Vader 2, and it was like all
Oh, all
and it was
stormtroopers.
all stormtroopers, which was really
Yeah.
cool, like all the synergies that you had. I think it wasn't it wasn't hitting hard enough, unfortunately. And I think it was her first game playing Veers. So I think there was like just a little probably like getting used, because I know she's an amazing player. So I think it was just probably a
Oh
little
yeah.
getting used to a new list. Probably for her was probably the biggest thing why it just kind of didn't go her way. I mean, but that was a really for me anyway, a low wounding game. Did 3 wounds, she only did 2, so I think that was part of it too. Was like she just wasn't getting the hits off that she needed, because she her dice were really hot in the beginning and they just cooled off pretty bad towards the end of the game.
Yeah, and I understand that sometimes, when, especially this time of year, if you haven't had a chance to get in practice games,
Mhm.
uh, sometimes you got to use a tournament as like a trial by fire. That's what I'm actually planning on doing. So, Mr. E is doing his Sunday tournament at the end of the month, in the middle of Christmas and New Year's, but I actually, so Sundays are easier for me. I actually can make it to like a Sunday afternoon. That's the other thing. He does it in the afternoon, which is nice. Uh, so I am probably gonna do, because I keep talking about it, the Leia Freedom Fighter Kanan list, and
Mhm.
all honorary furries. So, but
Nice.
I haven't got, because I haven't gotten to play the list. I've been talking about it ever since Alan showed me a version of that list, and I have not gotten to play it. And that was during our league like 2 months ago.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
so sometimes you just got to roll up to a tournament and be like, you know what? I'm gonna try and play Veers because I want to play Veers. I
Right.
don't know if I know how to play Veers yet, but
Yeah,
that's
and
what
then
you got to do.
I think she was kind of in that position. I remember she was working on a really big project at her work, she said, and she was just not able to, not at a lot of events. She wasn't even in our league, which was surprising because she enjoys playing so much. So I think that was probably a big piece of it. Is just she's not getting didn't get the reps in that she wanted to. Um, so yeah, no, that was cool. My second round was against Sheev, one of our locals, and very active in our Discord. And I in that game I ended up deciding to go with my Iden Moff Gideon list. So I did have the special forces, and you know what the special forces do, Aubrey? They deploy at range 3.
I Nope, they deploy at range 1, Todd.
So
In
basically, yeah, and I did end up winning that game 2-1. Sheev basically said that the only reason I really won that game was because I remembered to deploy at range 3.
Sure, sure. Why didn't anyone distract you while you were deploying, Todd? Chief would have
They tried
won.
to, but I had laser focus on deployment. That was my, so I was focused on what I was doing.
What is this focus of which you speak, Todd? I don't know what that means.
But he ended up playing his all specters list basically. Um, that one we both had 4 wounds that game. That was pretty brutal. Um, I think more than anything, he made a pretty critical error right off the bat. So right from the start, I think it was because I was playing Moff. He didn't want to do any reserves. Um, I I had prio. I moved up by my first activation was the special forces, so I was able to move up and basically take 2 of the 3 center points. So I had 3 points right off the bat. His next activation, he gets Ezra, brings Ezra and takes that middle point back, which makes sense to a certain extent. But the next time around, my next activation was Aiden, and Aiden said, "Oh, little boy sitting in the middle of the board, how you doing?" and shot the shit out of him. So he
I mean, that sounds like an episode of Rebels. Come on,
right.
uh, Ezra runs off, tries to do something. He's like, "I got this," and then the Imperials show up, and he goes, "I don't got this."
Right, right. So I mean, unfortunately, that kind of put like that struggle ended very quickly, just because it was like it was a poor management of that. And like I said, I don't in the moment, I don't think it was a wrong decision. The other problem is that he had thrown him so far forward, and Kanan hadn't done anything yet. So like Kanan
Hmm.
was able to do his revenge triggers and everything, but he didn't have a target to shoot at because he was still at the deployment range. So
Oh,
there
okay.
was
So Ezra was really far forward then, because
yeah.
usually Kanan can get to I mean, the jumps. Wow. All right. All right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
far enough back because yeah, he was far enough forward to where yeah, I was shooting from like almost in between the first set. Again, we were playing on shifting, so between like the closest row of objectives to me in the middle objective. So I was like kind of in between those two, and I was able to take Ezra out from that range. So like Kanan, I was like, okay, yeah, I know Kanan just cannot get to where I'm at. Is basically what it came
Yeah.
down to.
Yeah.
So so
That's tough. Wait, which mission did you bring? Was that,
I
because
brought
that sounds
shifting.
like that? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I brought shifting priorities. It's just what I prefer to play on. At this point, I like sabotage, but for like what like there's just so many other lists that are better than what I like on the other missions that I'm in. So it's like I hope to win priority, and that kind of will come to fruition in my third round. But yeah, so she ended up coming back, winning round or winning struggle 2. And then unfortunately it was like the flop on struggle 3. I had all 3 points, and it was just a
Ooh.
really quick end to the game there.
Yep.
But like I said, I got out really fast just because of the amount of early wounds I was able to do in struggle 1. And then yeah, struggle 3 was just another one of those where it's like I got it all. And then of course my third round was against Matt Booker. Um, and basically exactly what I did to Sheev in the first the second round of the event. Matt was able to do to me. Basically, he was playing a mother anchor basically. So he ended up playing his was Mom with Moff Gideon, and I went back to by Maul and Hunter list, which I don't know. There, like, I was waffling back and forth again on whether I should have played Empire. And in retrospect, Empire probably would have been a little bit better of a choice. Um, but he ended up getting sabotage for him, which was ideal for his list because it was his mission. Mom is not as good on shifting priorities as she is on sabotage, so I think it just kind of worked out in his favor having that mission. But I know that I made like a really critical error on a bounty hunter's activation, which really kind of cost me the game in struggle 2. But struggle 1 right off the bat, he got the Night Sisters and basically took the each side point. So he had 4 points right off the rip.
Whoa.
Right. And basically it was just one of those where it's
Okay.
like, okay, I can move forward, take 1 point, and then so I would score 3, and then he would come forward, take that point back, score 4. And it was
Score
just
four. Yeah.
so there was just it was like it took a long time to get through the struggle, but I was never able to sit there and get to the point where I could take 2 points. I ended up taking the Night Sisters out, but I never was able to get like flip those 2 points, and that was kind of like the
Mm.
bigger issue was that. So he took struggle 1 pretty easily. It just took a long time to get there. Struggle 2, I had an activation where this was really kind of the turning point was I had the bounty hunters and he had Maul or Moff Gideon, so I just reserving is usually not something you're going to do anyway. And I went into with my first attack into Savage, wounded Savage, and then which triggered mom. Mom comes back, takes out my bounty hunters, so they don't get their second attack. I think in that
Oh, yeah.
situation, I probably should have went into mom first. That way, she wouldn't, and that she wouldn't have had her revenge, and then I would have been able to go in Savage. And I think that's really what cost me. So I lost in two struggles, and I think that's what cost me that second struggle. Was just
Yeah,
not
yeah.
was losing that ability, because that would have, because mom was probably going to be close, was borderline able to get wounded, if I had a pretty decent dice roll. So I probably would have been able to get two wounds that game, which would have given me two wounds that activation, which would have given me two momentum on top of
Yeah.
scoring at least 2 points, I think. So, but ending the activation, not getting the momentum, not being able to flip the second point that I was like, that mom was kind of contesting, really kind of just was like, okay. And it was one of those things where in the moment, it was third round, and I was just like, I know part of me was just not focused enough on the game, to and so
Hey, I was gonna say third round again.
mm,
These games are long,
yeah,
especially if you had a long struggle one like sabotage. I'll tell you what. After playing on all three mission packs for a lot of time, the one I least am happy about playing on is still Sabotage Showdown, because
that
struggle
struggle one
one
is so long.
just tends to. I don't know what it is about the 3-3-3-3. Even you said Matt was scoring one more than you every single time, and it still took forever. Like, that is
Yeah,
my point. Like,
you're right.
he got an early edge, maintained that lead, and it still took forever to get through struggle one. I can't wait. I can't wait for to see what the fourth mission pack is, because I'm hoping to see less of Sabotage Showdown, as little as possible. But hey, that other thing though, that's a reminder. Like, I have noticed, so I started kind of a sidebar. I've started playing Scrabble again with the fiance and her family, and I have apparently figured out how to think ahead more in terms of positioning. Yes, it's Scrabble, everyone. If you've never played Scrabble, go find it and try it, unless you like hate words. But you basically, you have tiles. It's a 2D board. You put words out in a puzzle.
I
But
think
a
everybody
lot
should
of
know that what Scrabble is
I
by now.
don't know. I'm just, hey, there's one listener who's happy I said that. Anyway, exactly one. Anyway, but a lot of that game is figuring out where you're going to place and what's going to happen once you've placed something down. What is your opponent going to do to react to that? Um, and
So you're
and
saying
to,
Shatterpoint has helped you play Scrabble better?
yeah, it's really funny. Talia actually beat Talia the first game I got back on it, and she was like, "What's going on? What's different?" Because usually she kicks my butt handily. Like, her and her parents are insane. Uh, but I was keeping my own, and the only thing I can think of is that, you know what, you have to be really careful of in Shatterpoint: the order of operations in which you do things, the positioning of your models. Like, that's the only thing that's changed since the last time I played Scrabble with the fam. So, all right,
That's
I'm
hilarious.
learning. Maybe.
That's funny that the skill set has changed. So no, that's hilarious.
Right.
Cool. So I know other podcasts are probably going to be jumping out there talking about the Kiadi Mundi box. Well, I should say the proper name is Wisdom of the Council box. Um, and I think you and I have like kind of discussed this, like we don't really like just kind of like, hey, I'm going to read everything that's on this card and then talk about what we like about this ability and this, that, and the other. But we do want to talk about it, and a little bit, but we're not going to kind of break down each ability and go down the tree and this, that, and the other. Yeah, like we do want to talk about it. And I know like you're itching to talk about the Padawan learners here, the younglings as they are. I know I'm pretty disappointed, but they are a 3 point cost character. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, especially in the Republic, you have the 501st. So, I mean, they're kind of living up to that reputation. But what, what is your thoughts on the Padawan learners there, Aubrey?
So first off, we have to rewind. It's the cam box. The cam box. Whenever you see everybody talking about cam, that's key Adi Mundi, because some of us might have been confused. Who's this Cam guy? Why do we keep talking about Cam? I dropped into the Australians Discord, Red Mandos, and I'm like,
Mhm.
who is Cam? And then I went, oh, Kiani Mundi. So it's Cam, Todd. It's Cam. And then also, I would like to ask everyone, how many successes does Anakin Skywalker need to murder the Jedi Padawans on his Gem So side, Todd? Do you remember?
I don't think I have that memorized anymore, but I'm sure you're going to tell me. So, what is it?
It's 3 successes. Todd, remind me, what is the average success rate on any given unit in Shatterpoint?
2 to 3. So, especially with a primary going into a support like that, yeah, I like it. I like where this is going. Anakin doing Anakin things is really what's happening here, Aubrey.
So my point is these are not Padawan learners. These are younglings getting murdered during Order 66. Why do they have clone health? Why they're Jedi? Yes, they're Padawans. Yes, they're babies. They're not supposed to be as good as like a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master. But these are Padawans. They've survived the initiation. Padawans have been chosen to be trained by a Jedi. Like 8. Just 8. Just make it 8. Just give them one more. Instead, I'm looking at them in the 501st going, oh, so you two are going to hang out together. All right. All right.
Well, and to be fair, I think part of the reason behind this, and I'm not saying that these guys are something that you're wanting to put in every list. I'm not going to say that at all. Um, but they are a very healing focused unit, and I think that probably is part of it because the bigger issue is they're prone to getting one shot. I think more than anything else, especially because they really want to be up in melee because of their abilities, which we can talk about a little bit more. But on the start of the activation, they can heal. They get one heal. They have a lot of heals on their tree. I mean, their first success has a heal and a damage. So and they also have that reactive ability that, which again, you have to be in melee for it to trigger. But allows you to heal stuff like three away. So it's a very healing focused unit. Um, but yeah, I don't. There's it means you have to run, but in order to really take advantage of their full kit, you kind of have to run them forward and put them in danger.
Todd, remind me, how useful is healing if you're already dead?
Yes, and that's going to be the issue. Is
Like, and this is, I am going to borrow another argument from again, if you've not listened to Red Mandos, go check them out. They're awesome. Their Discord's great. There's a lot of good conversations about cats, dads, and Shatterpoint. uh and so the they were talking about the fact that yes, Jedi should be good in melee and not as offensive in ranged.
mm,
But I've reached a point, like, they explained it well. Outside of like General Kenobi specifically, the best way to deal with a Jedi is to shoot at them.
mhm.
And I don't that's shouldn't be the case. Like lore wise, I'm thinking all the way back to Knights of the Old Republic, that HK-47, the assassin droid in that game. Deep cut for you younger listeners. It's a great game. Deal with the user interface and the slow gameplay. Go play it or watch somebody play it on YouTube. It's great. Uh, but HK-47, you can ask him, how do you kill a Jedi? And the first thing he says, if I have to watch one more meatbag try to shoot a Jedi with a blaster, I'm going to kill him myself. Because the whole point of being a Jedi is that they were good at dealing with large groups of enemies with blasters. They actually are supposed to be weaker against other melee opponents because they're not used to dueling. Like, the reason Dooku is able to just one shot Anakin and Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones is because Anakin and Obi-Wan trained to deal with large groups of enemies with blasters. They didn't train to duel one scary Sith Lord. like like and then they had to change the whole lore. Is that after that fight, Anakin and Obi-Wan changed their training to get better at dueling, and the other Jedi were confused because they're like, we're about to go on giant battlefields where they're all the little robots are shooting at us. Why are you guys doing this? And they're like, because we know the end game.
Right.
Like, so I finally have reached a point where, like, and again, it was their conversation, this is not an original idea of mine, where I'm like, I just wish like their range defense should be as good as their melee, or vice versa, honestly. Like, I don't.
But they have deflect, Aubrey. They have deflect, which costs a force. But they have deflect.
Yeah.
So as soon as
Yeah,
they get
like
wounded, you
that
got a
was
2 force cost deflect.
that that was the other thing. And I get their Padawan, so like okay, all right. I'll stop complaining for one moment.
No,
The
you won't. No,
flavor,
you won't.
the flavor of this card and the abilities, and it being a 3-cost unit, and them being Padawans, I get why they made the choices they made. I just, at this late juncture, I was hoping for something that was going to like beef up Republic, so that we're not just having to do like no offense, the Bad Batch is great. I love the show. They're great. But if you want to play Republic, you're pretty much locked into playing Bad Batch and Obi-Wan. And yes, there are other people out there who are trying to say like, no, you need to try Padme, no, you need to try Mace Windu again, etc., etc., etc.
Lumi.
Lumi. Okay, Lumi though, like she's just generically good. Like you can play Lumi with not a single other Republic character, and
Mm.
Lumi's abilities are still good. So I feel weird. It's like, I'm sorry, let's bring it up one more time. It's like saying Darth Vader is the best Galactic Republic primary. I like that's not.
At one
He's
point, he
just
was.
he's just good. He's just good at what he does. Like that doesn't make him good for Galactic Republic. Like not like, like there's a difference between good stuff lists and like, I'm gonna synergize with my faction. And this, like, deflect costs of force. Like I I mean, okay, let's talk about positive stuff, Todd. Okay, positive stuff. Uh so at first I was so annoyed because I was like, how are you going to get anywhere down their tree with only 6 dice? But then I read Force Rush. Like Force Rush is cool. It's basically like a worse version of Mandalorians are stronger together, right? Because it's not a
Mm.
jump, it's a dash. But as long as you land within if a character in the unit lands within 2 of another allied force user, you get a
Character,
focus
too.
action.
Yeah, it's a character, so they can trigger off themselves.
Well, isn't it
Oh, and it says
a
another, so nope.
another allied force if a character in
No,
this unit and
yeah,
oh
character. So they do
oh
it. They trigger off themselves.
I missed that.
It
Okay, well
says
that
character,
okay
not
that
unit.
So that makes it okay. That makes it a little better, but it's still just a dash. But they get a focus action as long as they meet the requirements, which now I know are a little bit easier. Okay, cool. Okay, all right. Well, I was just gonna say, but it's hard to get the focus. But no, all right, it's a little
No,
easier.
character, not unit, so you're good.
So I mean, they're probably most of the time you're going to be hitting for 9 dice, which is cool. They have 2 shoves on their tree, like on the second and third success. So like that's what we like to see that. But I mean, these guys, they do like 5 damage maybe, and like I get their Padawans, but you're pretty much locked in. You're always going to need to spend for Force Rush unless they're already in place somewhere. They're they're just so squishy. Like the like the first 2, like 1 expertise gives you a block, 2 expertise gives you a block, cool. But then 3 plus gives you 2 more blocks and a heal. How many heals does one unit need? Like those
Well, and
heals.
I think that kind of goes back to that stretch out with your feelings, where they can sit there and use the heal at range 3 against it for on an ally. Like,
Well, but that only works when they're attacking. But I mean,
yeah,
I get your point. I get your point, but it's like this is it. I mean, this ability is unique. It's kind of interesting. I mean, that is cool that they can heal, because there's lots of times where you're like just outside 2 of some other unit that you're trying to heal. So
hmm
I mean, it gives you options, but I feel like these guys are gonna suck your force to do what you need them to do, which is not what Republic needs. Republic doesn't need any more units that are gonna greedily gobble up all the force.
well, yeah, no, I get that. I mean, the thing is, within this box, if you're playing the box together, like and we'll jump into it in a second here. You are getting 4 force because Shakti is your first secondary to bring a force to the table. So I mean, there is 4 force that's going to be coming with this box if you play the box together.
And okay, hey AMG. My last thoughts. We should let's go on to Shakti. But my last thoughts are AMG. I saw you. I saw what you did. You wanted us to make the joke about the younglings. You know, magnify image right there on the on Anakin's gem. So 7 damage. I know what you did. I really have no flavor complaints. I just want my Jedi squad to be cooler.
You're
Anyway,
not getting that. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. But no. So okay. So my favorite out of this box is probably Shakti. Like everything that I'm looking at. I mean, I to be fair, I kind of want to put her with Cad Bane and do like because of her mercenary.
you just want to play more bounty hunters.
I do, man. Like I could see a world where like I was like playing around with lists last night. I'm like, okay, Cad Bane, Shakti, other primary being Mando and like Bosk with like IG 88. I mean, it's like or no IG one of the 5 point prime the secondary or
One of
support
the
I should say.
IGs.
Yeah. But basically like just like a nothing but bounty hunters mercenary list with her. I'm like, yes, let's go. So no, I think I like her the mercenary, her having the keyword giving a dash to mercenaries is just wild to me. I'm like, but it makes sense. I mean, if you look at like what she was doing in the Clone Wars movie or Clone Wars show, because she was working with bounty hunters, training the clones on Camino. So it makes sense that there's some synergy there with mercenaries. And like, I think unless people are familiar with that particular episode, I guess they're like, what, why mercenaries? But like in my mind it was, oh yeah, that makes sense. She did work with bounty hunters quite a bit in the Clone Wars show.
Yeah, and I love this because it is a callback to one of my favorite books series, the Republic Commandos. Because again, at different times, there have been different lore reasons for the fact that the clone army is embarrassingly tiny. Like it's smaller than some Earth-based militaries. like it's like do you what does unit mean? Forever, George, we are going to ask you, what does unit mean? Because this army is not big enough for an entire galaxy. But in those books, they made the point that basically the clones, the clones were supposed to be like a mixture of like special forces and infantry and all of what they needed. And instead, like all of the clones were kind of being used to train local militias and like local armies because they couldn't be everywhere all at once. and
Mm,
and I think it's cool that we saw that a little bit in the Clone Wars show, because like there's a whole book and it's interesting. It's legends, not canon anymore. But basically, Obi-Wan and Kit Fisto essentially go and train a terrorist cell to like attack the separatists, and like they have like 5 clone troopers with them. Like that's
right.
it. because the army's like stretched so thin, and so like that's the story of them like training this group. And so I think this is cool. I kind of It annoys me a little bit because now I kind of wish that Sabine had uh like she could move, because she only moves Rebel Alliance. She doesn't move Mandalorians. And I
Mm,
thought it was because they really wanted those like, target another unit and have a move action be like really restricted. Like I'm not a game designer, but I assumed there was a reason. But now it's like, oh, you could move a Jedi, you could move or wait, not Jedi, is it hang on, is it Galactic
it's
Republic?
Galactic Republic.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can move Galactic Republic or mercenaries. And I'm like, why can't Sabine move Mandalorians then? But no, this is cool. No, I like
Yeah,
Shakti a lot.
I like her a lot. I mean, yeah, I mean, her having immunity to expose and to disarm is really cool. Like she's just that's a really cool item there. The one of the things that I thought was interesting also was her expertise chart upgrades a strike to a crit. I'm like, I would have rather just gotten the crit, but it's interesting. I mean, it makes to where it still makes something unblockable. I think it's just a different way to give a crit. I think.
That is So sadly, I think that unfortunately, and again, I can't take credit for these thoughts. I am actually really just regurgitating. There was a very long conversation about all of this in the Red Mando's Discord. Like I there was like 50 notifications when I woke up because of the time change. And I was like, what are you guys doing over there? Uh, but the problem with this is that this doesn't actually get you additional successes.
Mm-mm.
Like, yes, you're getting upgraded, but remember, how do we do dice, right? The attacker modifies their dice, right? And then the defender modifies theirs. So you could literally take a strike that maybe could have gone through, turn it into a crit, and
And
then
if they
you're
have crit
attacking.
mitigation,
Yeah, and then you're attacking somebody who has crit mitigation, and now you have suddenly gotten fewer successes than if you had just left it alone. Like
mm,
I, I get that she's a secondary, and I do think they've done a really good job of showing us a Jedi Master in her prime, but as a secondary. Like I actually feel like they really nailed it just about. But I really just wish that she had like a strike on each of these slots. I actually like I don't mind almost everything about her combat tree and her expertise except for that. I wish like each box had just a strike. And then I think she would have been spot on.
right.
But maybe that's too good. I don't know.
Not sure. I mean, it's one of those where I think we're going to have to sit there and get some reps playing with her, and kind of see how it goes. It is interesting. I think you really the biggest thing with her is I think you have to pick your targets. Are you really going to be using your secondary to attack into somebody with crit mitigation? Is I guess the thing that I would look at is like I see her as someone who's really going to be able to sit there and just go and take out a lot of the support units and probably going into other secondaries. I don't. I try not to punch up into the primaries unless it's something that I absolutely have to do. Um, but so I think that's part of it. There is like, how are you going to be utilizing her in the moment in the game? So, and I think that's like you can if you have a plan for her, I think she's going to be great.
And yeah, that makes sense. That kind of comes back to choosing your targets wisely. Yep, you say that, and I'm like, yes, I am always thinking of like what is the worst case scenario, and it's like
Mhm.
that moment where you're like, okay, Maul's on that point, Thrawn's on that point, General Kenobi's on that point, Shakti's the last card of my deck. I gotta go take that. That's the priority objective.
Right.
And you're like, all right, here we go. This is gonna go somewhere. But yes, more often that's what you should be using her for.
Right, exactly. And her feeding blow is the other piece of it too. I mean, like you're really kind of hoping, like if that she there are no expertise in the defense roles on that one. I think that's going to be kind of like very um situational. I don't see that being used a lot just because of how much there is in there. Like if there's one or more expertise in the defense role, then you can change a block to a fail. But it's like I mean, if you're going up against me, I just roll fails all the time anyway, so I guess you don't have to worry about it. But you know,
uh, the so about the only thing that I kind of don't understand from a design uh standpoint is that you are given access to two different repositions, and I know one of the repositions is like if you get two successes, it's 2 damage reposition. Cool, let's go. But I almost feel I feel weird because she has force repulse, which is awesome, but she doesn't actually have a free activation on her tree. I feel like
yeah,
the last and I'm not trying to make it easy. I feel like the last reposition could have been a free activation because if you need a reposition, you can always just go 2 down her tree, boom, I get a reposition done. Like you're not gunning, I think, for a reposition on 5 successes. You probably got whatever you want, whatever you wanted by that point, right? But I don't know.
probably.
That's a minor quibble.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would say is that you're typically typically we see that at like four on the tree, four down the tree. She's rolling 7 dice on this. You focus with her, roll 8. I mean, getting four down the tree, I think is going to be a little easier than we anticipated getting down with like some of the other people because like let's see, Asajj is probably the one that we see that the most, but she doesn't, who just fails to hit that on her tree.
This is me getting into game design, and I'm not a
Yeah,
game designer. I was just surprised because I like force repulse. I mean, yes, you're getting the extra force from her, which is cool. Like she's paying for half of force repulse by herself. That's unique. I hope we see more of this because I think it's really cool. I mean, we've been wondering since the beginning, right? There's always been a 0 on the tops of our secondaries and supports all this time, and we're like, if there's a 0 there, that means that number can be different.
yes,
So like I'm excited. That's just like the tiniest quibble because you really, I mean, I don't know about you, but even with Maul, like I don't like paying full price for those two force abilities if I've got another option.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice that she does have that force. You're bringing, like, typically going to be bringing 4 force with her, unless you go and bring her with someone like I'm thinking about bringing her with Cad Bane. So I think that's, but he has his force refresh, which is going to be, adds a whole different aspect to it. But yeah, we can get into that piece of it probably a little bit later. So, but yeah, do you have any
Yeah.
other thoughts on Shakti before we move on to Kiadi? Your boy
I would
Cam.
just I would just like to remind the dear listeners that Shakti takes credit for being the most killed character in Star Wars because there's a version of events where she dies to General Grievous at the very beginning of Revenge of the Sith. There is another scene that's just in the book where she is the is she the second casualty or the first casualty? Like Anakin ganks her early on in the Nightfall operation at the Jedi Temple, and then there's the Jedi, or not Jedi survive. Wow, my brain's crossing its wires. And then there's she's in the Force Unleashed, right? She's one
Mm,
of the Jedi that you hunt down in Force Unleashed as Starkiller. So uh, nobody could decide how dead Shakti is, but she definitely didn't make it out alive.
no,
Like so,
Shakti definitely
and
did
this is
not
one of those
survive.
yeah, and this is one of those characters we don't know like a great amount about her backstory. Like maybe there's a comic book or something I haven't read, but she just has a striking visual design. So cool character. Like I'm glad. I'm glad that out of this whole box, I think she's going to see the most play, which is interesting because she's the 5 point secondary. But she hits all the notes. I like I'm finding stuff to nitpick as opposed to the younglings back there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, let's hit the primary of the box, and that's your friend Cam. I like to call him by his full name, Kiadi Mundi, the Jedi Master. So he's interesting. He is 8 squad points, 3 force, which is pretty standard as far as all of that's concerned. He also has a force push. He does on one side of his cards have the forward down the tree being able to hit that. So he can hit his force push, which is pretty cool. Um, Overall, I mean, his ability, the one thing I would say, his identity, the Guardians of the Republic, I kind of like that. Um, because I want to pair him with Obi 2 so that I can mind trick for one less.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, I do like that. I do like that too. The only thing is that like okay, I get it. The reason the Padawans are squishy is because that you have to be within 3 of a wounded ally unit to reduce the cost and it just
Mm,
feels like I you're basically setting this up to I want to be behind and then I get an advantage when I'm behind and it's a really situational advantage. Like, can it just be like if I have a wounded allied unit or even just make it like range 5? Like range 3 is somebody who tries to
mm.
beat up on people with chopper all the time. Range 3 is not as much as you think it is.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those identities that's just so situational as far as that second part of it, that you're probably not going to use it as much as you're going to want to, because it has to be allied Jedi. There has to be one character. There's a lot going on. The range is all range 3, which is not very. I think what range 3 is. I think 6 inches. So I mean, there's a lot going on with this that just makes it rough. So yeah.
Yeah, and my thing is like again, this is a Jedi master and and the fact that one of his sides has a range defense of 4, like I get that that's like the dueling side Makashi, and I get it. Like Shien is the deflect the blaster bolts back at them. It's supposed to be better at range. Makashi
Mhm.
is the dueling form, yes, but like 4 is so low. That's General Grievous defense. Like I just I don't know. I mean the tree seems fine. I mean we've got crit 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 on the one side. We've got
Mhm.
tons of strikes. It starts with one expertise gets you 2 strikes, 2 gets you 3, 3 plus gets you 4. So like that's cool. But then like you look at that side and it's like there's one shove, a ton of heals, and then just damage.
Yeah.
Like I don't like that side that much unless you're hunting for like a free force push.
Hmm.
Like you're probably going to be on Makashi both most of the time. And what are we playing into, Todd? What's the meta? Is this a bunch of melee brawlers beating on each other right now?
Yeah, basically. No.
No.
It's all about the range. Yeah, so I think there's that
Ugh.
he's, but you never know. I mean, the meta changes from release to release, so to speak. We might be getting away from, because I know like if you look at some of the other events, you don't see as much Empire. Like I said, like looking at like even Nova, there was not a lot of Empire making the top cut. I don't think there was any actually, if I remember correctly, looking at it. So I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
there's
it was interesting. And
so I
Mama's
mean,
coming back.
yeah, Mama's coming back. You're seeing that with Mom. The armor is doing making a lot of Mandos popular. It'll be interesting to see where the meta goes. Granted, this doesn't release until after LVO, so this is not going to be seeing play there. Um, yeah, this one he's interesting. I think he's only for the people that really want to try something different in Galactic Republic. I can see people trying to give him a run with it. Um, he's a really healing focused model. I mean, and that's like kind of the running theme in this box. Take out Chalk T, but there's a lot of just it's all about heals, heals, heals. Because he just, like you were saying, you go 3 down the tree on his Shen side, and it's like, oh, I can get 5 freaking heals. You go full tree on the top side, now you're looking at 8 heals that he can do. I mean, that's interesting. If like he could technically, I mean, if you have your younglings alive on 1, he could sit there and probably like put them all the way back to full health, if he
uh
just
it,
runs up and saves them.
if they left them on 1, they did something wrong or their dice failed. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, let me point out some more of the good stuff. Like Wise Counsel is really cool. Kind of reminds me of. I mean, it's not quite as good as Kanan's Double Dash, but like you get to pick a unit, and each character in that unit can dash. And if they're Jedi, a character in this unit can dash, so you can actually move. You can move your younglings quite a bit with
Hmm.
this, and also just give out a dash and then move. So I mean, he's got good movement. Like I'm happy there. We know force push is good, and he's got the free activation on the one side of his tree. Like no notes on force push. Force enhanced force enhanced reflexes is cool because it's basically Obi-Wan's so uncivilized, but for any attack.
Yeah.
So like that's cool, like because 3 damage. So he can do a surprising amount of like chip damage defensively. So I mean, there's stuff going on here. I don't I don't know. I like Shakti. I like Shakti.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think she's, as far as for me personally, I thought she's the piece that I like the most out of this. Um, I can see a world where he's playable. I mean, you're going to be probably keeping him on his Makashi side the most of the time if you do it, which like does kind of hurt because the defensive dice is just 4 there, and his expertise is okay. I mean, one reducing a crit to a strike and then just 1 block is interesting. And once you get to 2 expertise, though, it's pretty nice. It's 2 blocks and reducing a crit to a fail. On that Makashi side, anyway. So yeah, it's interesting. I think there's probably a place for him. I don't know how much this is going to impact the meta like you were referring to, though. He's not that piece that's going to finally get that the Galactic Republic to the top tier that I think there's a lot of people hoping that they're going to get to. but I mean, I think he'd be fun to play around.
I'm probably staying with my specters, but you know it might be worth it might be worth a look. If nothing else, this box does give you a ton of interesting list building designs. Shakti can go in a surprising number of places because of her unexpected like mercenary synergy, and there's a ton like look up the mercenary tag. It's probably more than you think. Just about every bounty hunter also has the mercenary tag in one way or another. Like sometimes you got to pick it at the like setup, right? I think because Boba Fett only has mercenaries some of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like that's cool. The Padawan learners are a 3-point model to give you. You know, we have been complaining that some of the Galactic Republic primaries are underutilized because of the whole needing 3 points. They care about Force user. So yet again, Daddy Vader might be a look at Galactic Republic synergies. It's fine, Todd. It's fine. So I mean, there's definitely room for exploration. I just don't know how often you're going to be rolling up with, all right, cam box, full box, let's go. I feel like it's going to be more like you spread this box out amongst your premier list building.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I 100% kind of agree with that sentiment. Um, like I said, Shakti kind of like fits a lot of different places, so I think she's going to be the piece that like you will see the most, simply because she just kind of can go just about anywhere. Um, I mean, I'll probably play the Younglings just for the memes, like, like
I
that's
will I will show up. I will show up with Anakin just to play against you. All right,
there
all
you go,
right.
there you go.
Gem so.
Yeah.
Hey, uh, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do?
So here's you know what it is though. You just have to play the younglings with a revenge list. Be like, you run them forward, let them get murdered, and then you just like, okay, now I can come up and start killing stuff. That's what it
I,
is.
I mean, I was gonna say like a Lumi OB2, and then I don't know what ARFs or I don't know actually know what you put in the support, but like if you were gonna play, I was trying to think what would I play this box with, and I'm like, well, Lumi's because he does care about you wounding, and like ARFs give out expose, so there might be this world where you play Lumi OB2 and ARFs. I don't know. I like that could be interesting.
I mean, you could also pair maybe with Ahsoka Jedi No More. I mean, if you really want to dive into the healing aspect of it. I mean, again, she like, like she decided to show up at the temple and sees Anakin killing off a bunch of younglings, and she's like, I'm going to show up and help.
Hey, I like it. I like it. There we go. There we go.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's places where you can like. I don't like. Again, I think you can make a really fun list with it. I don't know if it's going to be the place where you're going to like make that competitive thing. But if you're like looking for a game night type of a thing, I think they're fun to throw in there and have a run with them, just to sit there and play them.
Absolutely.
All right. Any? Do you have any closing thoughts before we get out to our thanking of all of our wonderful friends?
I really hope, despite how I felt about the Padawans, that we get just one more Jedi support. I need some temple guards. Come on, AMG, give me just some temple guard supports. I need some more Jedi like this. Like I am looking forward to seeing. I really hope the Padawans perform better than they look like on their stats, because I really want, like right now, if you want to play all lightsabers, you got to be dark side, and I'm like, come on, I just need I just need one more AMG. Just give me those temple guard supports. Give him like we got a Yoda. We got a Yoda box coming. I'm waiting. I want to see. I want to see Yoda. Yoda and some temple guards. Let's go.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, on that note, I do want to thank all of our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and listening to the crazy banter that we decide to have every week, which I don't know why you keep doing it to yourself. But thanks anyway. We appreciate it. But no, I do want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and listening. To all of our patrons, I definitely appreciate each and every one of you and all the support you give us. You definitely are helping us do what we want to do and provide the content that we are going to be providing and continue to provide. I mean, definitely, I was looking at them like, the Patreon funds basically kind of definitely do help us with like all of the equipment that we're going to be using to stream at Adepticon. So you definitely are helping out with a lot of that. So we do appreciate you. If you want to support the podcast, and you can definitely go onto our Patreon. The link will be in the description below. Other than that, I mean, if you don't want to become a patron but still want to support the podcast, you can rate review the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can definitely go ahead and just rate review. I'm sorry, you can go ahead and like and subscribe or leave a comment for us on there. We do appreciate all the support in any way that you choose to give us. We definitely appreciate all of that. But other than that, like I said, we do appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, thanks for with you.